Hello and welcome to another episode of Snakes Territory. I am Jesse Friedman alongside Jack Sommers, and shortly we will be joined by the one and only Robert Murray from Fansided, a baseball insider who is one of the best follows on Twitter. He's the guy who broke the Rafael Devers trade. We're going to talk with him about the Diamondbacks trade deadline plans here in a few minutes. But before we do that, Jack, I wanted to have you hop on to talk about the Monday game of this Astros series. Things did not go so well for the Diamondbacks. The winning streak has now ended.
Not only has a winning streak ended, but that dial that Mike Hazen talked about for the trade deadline clearly has moved another notch or two, at least, towards seller as a result of this loss.
The Padres, of course, beat the Miami Marlins yesterday, so the Diamondbacks lose the game in the standings. They're back to 5.5 games out of the third wildcard spot, which is exactly where they were when the second half of the season began. Of course, we'll talk about all of those details, what the Diamondbacks' plans might look like with Robert later in the show. But to dig into this game just a little bit here, Jack, Zac Gallen, of course, was the main storyline. Diamondbacks got great starting pitching over the weekend in that series against the Cardinals, but Gallen was not good on Monday. He left the game allowing 6 runs. He did have 6 strikeouts to just 1 walk, but there was quite a bit of hard contact in this one for him.
Yeah, the internal narrative that Torrey and Zach were kind of pushing was, well, it was 2 mistake pitches resulting in 2 home runs for Bryce Matthews, who drove in 5 of the 6 Astros runs. But in reality, Zach was maybe a little fortunate that it wasn't even worse. Of the 20 balls put in play, 13 were 95 miles an hour or harder. 7 of those were over 100 miles an hour. And fortunately for him, 8 of those 13 hard hit balls actually found gloves. The whole narrative of attacking the zone and being more aggressive with the fastball that came out of his work with James McCann seemed to blow up on him. The Astros clearly had the scouting report. They were very aggressive. 6 of the 7 hits came on first or second pitches of the at-bat, and 5 of the outs came on first pitch. So they were very aggressive. They were going after him. Zach was expressing frustration, like every time I make a mistake, it goes over the wall. But as we've talked about before, a lot of times there's a pitch in the middle of the plate that's hit really hard that turns into an out, and we don't really highlight that as much. We always highlight the one in the middle of the plate that goes out. Up's a mistake. But there were more than just those 2 mistakes.
You mentioned Gallen being more aggressive in this game. That was definitely true. He ended the game he threw 31 four-seam fastballs, and 24 of those were strikes. So on one hand, you love to see that, right? I mean, that's what we've been talking about for a while with Zac Gallen, is you want him to not be scared out of the zone and be willing to attack with that fastball. He's done that more here recently. But to your point, that hasn't necessarily led to a great outcome for him either, where he just winds up getting hit really, really hard in the zone. The average exit velo on the four-seam fastball, there were 10 batted balls against the four-seamer, average exit velo at 100.4 miles per hour. So it just underscores your point that this wasn't just the 2 mistakes to Bryce Matthews, although those certainly were costly. The Astros were making quite a bit of hard contact all game long. And really, Jack, this felt like kind of the perfect encapsulation of what Zac Gallen has been this year. He pitched fairly deeply into the game. He's still been able to do that for the D-backs. He was able to complete 6 innings and pitch into the 7th, but he gave up a lot of hard contact, and the final box score was not good.
Yeah, there was some question about whether or not Torrey should have sent him out for the 7th, and we can't really second guess anything here. I mean, there was 85 pitches. He'd just come off 3 scoreless innings. I mean, he settled down in the 4th, 5th, and 6th innings to throw scoreless baseball for a while anyway, and he looked pretty good doing it, racking up some strikeouts and all of that. But, single and then boom, hanging slider, cutter on game day. But Zach said it was a slider, to Bryce Matthews for the 2nd home run. It wasn't only about Zach. I mean, he was at 85 pitches when he got pulled out. Had he been taken out of the game and after 6 and the bullpen gave up a couple of runs, everybody would have roasted that decision as well. But, at the same time, the Diamondbacks, they had the bases loaded in the sixth inning with 2 outs, and Ketel Marte popped up. They had the runners on first and second in the seventh. I'm sorry, pardon me, put my glasses on. Get my innings straight here. Okay.
I know they drew 5 walks against Astros relievers. They had quite a few base runners in those last few innings.
Yeah, it was the sixth inning when Ketel Marte popped up, with the bases loaded. And then Geraldo Perdomo popped up with runners on first and second in the eighth inning. And then really it was a pop-up, even though it went out to the outfield. Josh Naylor popped out with 2 on and 2 out in the ninth. So, they left a small village on base over the final few innings and basically were just swinging under the ball and popping it up in the air. So, you can kind of point to the offense a little bit, leaving all those runners on base and only scoring 3 runs, but you just can't depend on the offense to score 7 or 8 runs every night to win a ball game for you. And this is what happens when you give up 6 runs.
Well, maybe you can't depend on the offense to score 7 or 8 runs every night, but apparently, Jack, you can depend on Eugenio Suárez to hit at least 1 home run every game, because he did continue that streak on Monday. He hit his 36th homer of the season. He is now tied with Aaron Judge. I believe he is past Shohei Ohtani. He leads the National League in home runs. He is only trailing Cal Raleigh in all of baseball. Raleigh still has 38. So just unbelievable stuff from Geno Suárez. But yeah, the D-backs offense ultimately fell short in this one. You maybe would have liked to see them cash in a few more times. But as you said, I mean, this is a pretty formidable Astros pitching staff. I know Colton Gordon is not a household name, but this bullpen is one of the best in all of baseball. And it felt like the moment the D-backs were headed into the later innings against that Astros bullpen trailing 4-3, it was going to be really hard for them to come back at that point.
Yeah, for sure. Just a couple of quick notes to add here. Our good friend Alex Weiner pointed out to me last night, just after Geno had hit his home run, maybe 2 minutes before, Shohei Ohtani had hit his 35th. So within 2 minutes of Ohtani getting his 35th, Suárez lined one out for his 36th. So that was kind of cool. The other point was it was Christian Walker's return. If you want to read about all the things that he talked about, including how the free agency went, he opened up about all of that. You can read a story about that from Alex D'Agostino on Arizona Diamondbacks on SI. Be sure to go check that out. There's some really good quotes and video there from the visit with Christian Walker, who hit a 427-foot double that clanged off the home run porch in right center field. Would have been a home run probably in almost every other ballpark, but that was his welcome back. I thought that the fan reception for him was a bit tepid. I would have expected to see much more of a standing ovation. There was a smattering of applause and a few people standing. Then afterwards, when he was back out on the field, the team did like a little video board hello to him, and he waved his cap. But I was a little disappointed. I thought the Diamondbacks should have showed out a little bit more for a guy that played his heart out and was a great leader and a really good person for a very long time for this organization. So I just want to tip my hat to Christian Walker, and wish he hadn't hit that double off the Zac, but he's a great guy and a good ball player.
I guess it doesn't help that it's a Monday night, right? I mean, I think the official attendance was 20,000 something, but from the videos I saw, Jack, it did not look like there were 20,000 people in that building. I don't know if you feel differently.
I think it was about 20K, but the point isn't how many were there. The point is of the 20K or whatever that were there, a mere fraction of them stood up and cheered for Christian Walker. I was disappointed.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, what does this mean for the Diamondbacks' trade deadline plans? Are they officially full on back into sell mode? We are going to talk with Robert Murray of Fansided on the other side of this break. Nothing says summer like long days, clutch plays, and firing off a few bets on the game, all with DraftKings Sportsbook. If you've never bet on baseball before, it's easy. Pick a guy to go yard, hammer some live odds mid-game, or just ride with your squad and hope for the best. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario, new customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Well, welcome back in here to Snakes territory. I let Jack Sommers go off. He is getting ready to head out to Chase Field to cover tonight's game. But as I said before the break, I am here joined by the one and only Robert Murray of Fansided, who does an outstanding job covering really all of Major League Baseball, breaking news across the league. Robert, just for me personally, it's been fun to see you emerge here over the last few years as one of the foremost news breakers in this sport. As someone who's younger coming up in the industry, it's cool to see that, you know, someone in our sort of general age range can really get involved with this stuff and really do good work. So props on that, and thanks for hopping on. We really appreciate it.
No, what a warm welcome that is. I appreciate you big time, man. That's very kind. There's been a lot of work that's gone into this. It's definitely not been an overnight thing, but it's been really cool to just get deeper and deeper into this. And yeah, this time of the year, oh boy, sleep is not very prominent on my end. That's for sure.
Well, we appreciate the time all the more this time of year for sure. And with that, let's jump into things here, Robert. It appears that the Arizona Diamondbacks are very much a team of interest around the league right now, with all of the assets that they have, all of the expiring contracts in particular with Zac Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Josh Naylor, Eugenio Suárez, maybe the biggest name of that group. The big question, of course, the D-backs fans want to know right now is, are the D-backs going to buy? Seems unlikely given what's happened here the last few days. And if they are selling, what to what extent might they actually do that? We know Mike Hazen, it is not necessarily in his DNA to go full sell mode in a situation like this. So what are you kind of hearing right now? I know it's probably still early in the process, but do you have a sense of what direction the D-backs might go?
Yeah, we're early in it, but yet also we're like 9 days away from the trade deadline. So we're pretty close here. And I don't anticipate the Diamondbacks buying. I would be really surprised if that was the case. Although that being said, they did come off the sweep of the St. Louis Cardinals. They did lose to the Houston Astros in the first game of that series, but my expectation has long been that they would sell. I just don't expect the big sell, as you kind of alluded to. And you look at, they have starting pitchers, obviously. You have Merrill Kelly, you have Zac Gallen. I know Gallen hasn't necessarily had the type of year that anyone really expected, especially in a free agent year. That's going to really impact him in free agency. But I would expect at least one of those guys to move. I wouldn't expect both. I don't anticipate a hard sell by Arizona by any means. So I would expect at least one of those guys to go. And then on offense, you have Naylor, you have Suárez, you have those are two of the best pieces on the market. And there's no shortage of interest in Suárez. The kind of year that he's having is just remarkable. And you have the Mariners, who traded him to Arizona, interested. You have, you have all these different teams that are going to be looking at him. And in the seller's market, the Diamondbacks can really take advantage of a real unique opportunity here. And I would expect him to go. Naylor, you could look at the Boston Red Sox could make some sense because they need a first baseman, especially with Tristan Casas out for the year. There's going to be other teams interested there as well. So there's going to be a lot of interest. I would expect the offers to be pretty good because there's no real dominant team across the league. And that opens up a lot of teams believing they have a chance, which could increase the offers. So it is a long story short, it's a good time to be Mike Hazen right now.
Yeah, I guess maybe a very complex time too, as he tries to figure out all the dynamics of who to trade, maybe who to hold on to. One of the issues I think the Diamondbacks fans have maybe had in recent days, hearing that the Diamondbacks might trade some guys but not others, is why not just blow the whole thing up, right? If you're not really in position to go for it this season, they're 5.5 games out of the wild card right now. I think Fangraphs gives them a 15% chance or something like that to make the playoffs. Why not trade both Zac Gallen and Merrill Kelly? Why not, make sure that you trade both Josh Naylor and Geno Suárez and just try to get as much as you possibly can, since all of these guys are on expiring contracts anyway?
No, I'm in right there with you. If I was the Diamondbacks, which I'm not, I wish I was. I would do a pretty hard sell, because this is an opportunity where, yeah, if you trade all of these guys, like, the rest of this year is not going to look pretty, and maybe that sends a bad message to Corbin Carroll or Ketel Marte or some of these guys. But it would give you such an opportunity here to retool and be better next year and just going forward, because you would have you would have such an influx of young talent, because the prices that you could get for some of these guys could just be astronomical, considering the current state of the market. So I totally agree. It's an opportunity that I would take advantage of, but it does not seem like Mike Hazen will end up doing that, because that's just not in his nature. But yeah, I totally agree.
Jack and I here on Snakes Territory have been sort of trying to temper people's expectations, remind people that, any of these guys that they do trade, you're only trading 2 months of control. Generally, we don't see teams go too crazy in what they're willing to give up for a rental. But given what you're saying, and given just kind of the nature of the market, do you think like a Geno Suárez, are the D-backs in a position here where we could have a bidding war, and maybe they come away with, on paper, a whole lot more value than what 2 months of Geno Suárez realistically should be worth?
I think that's possible. And I don't want to end up getting fans' hopes up, and maybe they end up getting disappointed. But look at last year. We saw the run on relievers with Tanner Scott, Jason Adam, and some of these other guys. 2 months of them ended up costing numerous top prospects, or just quality prospects in general. And they pitch 1 inning or maybe a little bit more than that. And you can end up getting Suárez for 4 at bats a game for 2 months, maybe even 3 months, depending on how far a team goes into the postseason. So you have that. And then you have so many different contending teams are going to be in the mix here, that it could lead to that kind of a bidding war. So I'm expecting that prospect haul to be pretty darn good. And that injury, or not injury, but the hit by pitch in the All-Star game, that was a huge scare. I watched it. I'm like, oh my gosh, that might have just single-handedly changed the trade deadline. But thankfully, he's okay. He's proven it by hitting home run after home run in the second half.
Yes.
But I think they're going to be in a good spot too. And another part of this as well is, even like, I want to go away from Suárez for a second and go at one of these starting pitchers. Let's say that they trade Kelly and they hold on to Gallen. Maybe Gallen is a candidate for the qualifying offer in the offseason, and then Kelly could be a candidate to return in free agency. So there's a lot of different elements that this team needs to consider over the next 9 days. There's going to be a lot of scenarios thrown at them, and it's a challenge. But Mike Hazen is about as trusted of an executive as there is in baseball, so I think he'll get the job done right. Just going to not be easy to do so.
I think for D-backs fans, they view Zac Gallen and Merrill Kelly very differently right now. You mentioned it earlier. Gallen has an ERA over 5. It has not been a good season for him whatsoever in his walk year. Meanwhile, Merrill Kelly has an ERA in the low 3s. And both of these guys have postseason experience. Merrill Kelly actually pitched better in 2023 in the playoffs than Zac Gallen did. I think a lot of people forget that. But it feels, Robert, like, based on what I've been reading from some of you all who know a whole lot more about this than I do, that maybe Zac Gallen, his market is actually maybe even better than Merrill Kelly. Do you think there are teams out there right now that actually would rather have Gallen over Kelly, given his pedigree, even though the numbers this season look very different between those two guys?
I don't know if I'd necessarily say that there's going to be teams that are going to be more interested in Gallen over Kelly at this point, but what I would think is teams might see an opportunity where they can get Gallen for cheaper. And maybe their analytics teams can end up seeing something that they would tweak with his arsenal or his delivery or his release point or you name it, in hopes of trying to get him back to what he's previously been. So it's a kind of a similar but yet different case of what's going on with Sandy Alcantara with the Marlins. He's a very talented pitcher in a really down year. Thankfully, Alcantara's okay. Gallen is he's struggling this year, obviously, but I think there's more in the tank for him to give. And sorry, I got my dog here. I think he's got my computer cord. I'm not kidding. I thought he was chewing it. But no, I think teams could see an opportunity here where they can get value for Gallen, and maybe it can end up being a guy that they get for cheaper who ends up changing their entire season come the postseason time.
You mentioned the qualifying offer and how that could be a big factor here. It feels like there are some split opinions on this. We don't really know. At least I don't know what the Diamondbacks, how the Diamondbacks view these 4 expiring contracts and who they want to give a qualifying offer to and who they might not. I know Ken Rosenthal the other day when we asked him about this, he was like, I'd give all 4 of these guys qualifying offers. I mean, why wouldn't you? But we also know the D-backs, they're not necessarily the biggest spenders out there. You know, is Ken Kendrick, their owner, going to be comfortable dishing out 4, contracts for whatever it is, $21-22 million next year? Do you view some of these guys as more likely to get qualifying offers than others, or what's your perspective on that right now?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's admittedly not something I've put a ton of thought into because I would think about half of those guys are probably going to end up getting traded between now and the 31st. But definitely the pitchers scream qualifying offer. Suarez, I think at this point he's probably as good as gone, just considering the overall state of the market and just how good he's been. Naylor is an interesting one for sure. My guess is probably not. But I agree with Ken. It's an opportunity where the Diamondbacks, if Ken Kendrick wants to really go out and spend, which is actually something he's done, not a ton, but he's done it with, especially on the pitching side. He clearly values pitching. So that would definitely make me think that if either Kelly or Gallen or both are on the roster, that they would be very strong candidates for in the offseason.
Well, you said Geno might be as good as gone. Who are the teams that you're hearing right now are interested in? A guy who's had a pretty darn impressive first half of the season here.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, you can look at so many different teams here. The Cubs, the Mariners, who I think make so much sense or not for Gallen, but for Suarez. They need a bat, and he obviously has familiarity there. And not only that, but they know exactly the kind of clubhouse presence that he is and just how important and how good of a guy he is. And I think that's something that's going to be in the back of their minds for sure. I could see the Brewers being interested, and I'm a huge advocate for the Brewers going all in because they have the best record in baseball as of this point.
Yeah.
If Mark Attanasio doesn't spend now, then when does he spend? So I hope the Brewers are pretty aggressive there just because this is a really unique opportunity for them. The Cubs, the Blue Jays. I mean, there's basically almost every contending team, or even the Yankees too. There's so many teams that make sense here that the market is just going to be he's going to be the most talked about guy at the deadline over the next 9 days, and get ready for a lot of Suarez talk on this show for sure.
In terms of what the Diamondbacks might get in return, I know it's hard to say. You're probably looking at some sort of a prospect package in a lot of cases, but it feels like the D-backs probably need some pitching, just given the way that this season has gone, the way that their 2026 rotation looks right now with Corbin Burns obviously on the shelf, as well as a number of other guys. Do you think it's realistic for the Diamondbacks to come away from this trade deadline with someone that they could actually slide into that 2026 rotation? Or are all these contending teams just going to be like, nope, I'm not giving you that major league ready starting pitcher, have this guy from AA instead?
That's a very, very good question. I would imagine the Diamondbacks are going to want major league ready starting pitching because that seems like it's one of the big priorities for them as of this point. And I mean, why? Like, it has to be, considering just the pending free agents that they have and just the current state of that rotation. But I'm going to guess they're going to look for that. For some of these guys, it could be tough. But if you trade Kelly or if you trade Suarez, I think there's a fair chance that you can end up getting something like that in return. So I think that's going to be something, no matter what. My guess is that it's going to be a pitching heavy return for them, or just returns in general for them. But we'll see if they get the major league ready guys. As
far as the other teams in the NL wildcard race, I mean, I don't know how we how seriously we consider the Diamondbacks as contenders among those teams at this point. But when you think about the Padres and the Reds and the Giants and the Cardinals and some of these teams that the D-backs would have to leap over if they were to make the playoffs, do you think those teams are going to be pretty aggressive or maybe not so much, and the D-backs might actually have more of an open door there than we would expect?
It's a good question. I would say, as of this point, I would expect the Giants to buy, and they're not close to anything as of this point. And I've been told by numerous different sources around the league that the prices are just so high that it feels kind of like fantasy football, where you're trying to trade three of your bench guys for your best player or for somebody else's best player, and it's just not necessarily how deals are made. But I would firmly expect the Giants to buy. Cardinals are in a unique situation here where they're better this year than they were expected to be, but they're going to listen on these rental guys. They're shopping Eric Fetty. I don't expect them to trade like a Jordan Walker or Nolan Gorman or anything like that. So I think it's just going to be rentals for them. The Reds are interesting. I've had different teams ask me if Brady Singer could be available, and the Reds, they were in a, I don't know, kind of in between spot going into the All-Star break. They were above 500, and I think they're probably going to end up standing pat or maybe doing a little bit of a buy. But I don't expect them to be overly active by any means. But I agree with you. I don't think the Diamondbacks are going to be buying by any means, but I don't think there's going to have a ton of competition when it comes to selling.
Last one here for you, Robert. Do the D-backs, I know they don't hold all the cards, like that would be kind of crazy to say, but do they hold like most of the cards? I mean, it feels like they are in a very, very advantageous position. And given what you just said about like the prices being super high for some of these guys, I mean, it feels like this could be a trade deadline that really helps kind of rebuild the D-backs farm system and maybe infuses their organization with some pitching that they really, really need.
Totally. And they're always going to have an eye on competing for next year because they don't want to end up impacting their chances of competing going forward. So that's definitely something in the back of my mind and the back of their minds as well. They're definitely in an advantageous position. And to me, they're one of the defining teams of the deadline. And it's them. It is the Cleveland Guardians, because I absolutely expect teams to be asking them about Stephen Kwan or Emmanuel Clase or players of that caliber. I don't expect either to get traded by any means, but if they get an offer that is just too good to pass up, that is a team that I could see making a big move. Again, I don't expect it, but I think it's at least something that'll be kicked around by a bunch of teams. And the other one is the Pittsburgh Pirates, because they have probably the best pitching piece that's going to be available in Mitch Keller, and there is a lot of interest there. We saw the Blue Jays get connected to Keller again this morning. But they have Keller, they have Bailey Falter, they have David Bednar, Dennis Santana, Ke'Bryan Hayes, who, I mean, defensively is great. Offensively, he's got a slugging percentage under 300, so that's not exactly
he's not
great.
Geno Suárez.
Exactly. Yeah, he's like the polar opposite. He's also signed for like $70 million, so that's another complicating factor there. But those to me are the three teams that I think could really just change up the deadline here. But the Diamondbacks are definitely in a very good spot to take advantage and compete next year and just going forward.
Well, Robert, I know, again, this is a super crazy time for you, so we really, really appreciate the time, and best of luck in the next 10 days or so. We hope you're able to get at least a small amount of sleep during this crazy time period for you.
No, I appreciate it. I'm hopeful my dog lets me sleep as well. The last couple of nights, definitely not been the case, but we love him. A shout out to Cooper. Good boy. But I appreciate you having me for sure.
You can find all of Robert's stuff over, of course, on social media. You can find him on Twitter, or you can find his work over at Fansided. And then he is also a co-host on the Baseball Insiders podcast, which you can find here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts as well. Robert, thank you again one more time. We really appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me, and good luck to the D-backs over the deadline here. It's going to be pretty crazy.
You know about the best place to buy, sell, trade, or look for that special card in your world. It's called Arena Club, and Eric Kratz just went through a little slab pack experience, and you went big. You went for the Ruby pack.
I love it. I love clicking on the Ruby pack and knowing that I'm going to open something that is going to be epic. I got a Cal Ripken Jr. autographed 1 of 42. I'm keeping it right now, but I would love to have it in my hand, so I might even have them send it to me. Already graded, everything taken care of for me.
That's right. You want to hang it up and stare at it all day, go for it. But if you're in there to get something else or to sell it away, you can do that. They've got the buyback program, or you can put it on the marketplace yourself. Tons of options. This is where the best cards live. It's arenaclub.com/foul and use the code foul for 20% off your first slab pack, or if you'd like to purchase a card, 20% off your first card purchase. Again, arenaclub.com/FOUL. Use code FOUL.
Well, thank you again for joining us here on this episode of Snakes Territory. As always, you can find us on social media. I am at Jesse N. Friedman. Jack is at ShoeWizard59. Robert, as I mentioned, is at by Robert Murray over on Twitter, and our show is at Snakes Territory. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel here on YouTube, and leave a comment. We would love to hear what you thought of the show. And thank you again for being with us. We really appreciate it. And we'll be back with another episode of Snakes Territory very, very soon.